Hi, Stephanie. Let's see what you did here with this set. Okay, I know you said that you didn't really have a lot of time, but let's see how it worked out. Okay. The flowchart illustrates the production of 5 different T's. There's no reason to put an apostrophe here. It's not possessive, so just take it out. Overall, every T is produced by several steps. However, drawing plays an important role in the production of each of the T's. Okay, again, no S here. That's true. There was another thing that was similar to all of them, the sorting and cleaning. So you could have said that they have different steps, but there are some steps that are common among all the types. Okay, without getting into detail, there were a lot of different things you could have said. You could have also said that white tea is the simplest, while oolong has the most steps. So there were a bunch of different things you could have said for an overview. Like I said, the drawing was fine, except that they also are sorted and cleaned as well. So you could have added that there. All right, let's see what you said. Tea leaves for white, green, oolong, and black tea need to be dried as the first step in the process. Why do you say that? Going to be dried as the first step? Take a look. The first step is here. They're first sorted and cleaned. Okay, so it starts here and then they go into these different steps. So I don't really understand that. Okay, anyway, let's see. Okay, black tea leaves, however, are fired instead of the normal drying process. Tea leaves need to be fermented. Which tea leaves? Black? Make that clear. You could have said its tea leaves need to be fermented. Black tea leaves need a full fermentation, whereas oolong leaves only need a short one. Green tea leaves need to be rolled before they get steamed or pan fried. Green, where are you? Green need to be rolled. Okay, I see what you did. You see, yeah, you started from the right to the left. I have understood this completely differently. And I think actually everyone else has too. You start off here, left to right. It's just like when you read a book. So it starts off with fresh tea leaves, and then through this differentiation process, you then get different types of leaves. So depending on how they're processed after this common step, that will determine whether you get white or green or oolong or black. So you basically read this backwards, okay? So in fact, drying is the last step in the process. Okay. However, black and oolong tea get rolled and prepared after their fermentation. As a second to last step of the process, green, black, and oolong tea leaves go through a withering process before they get sorted and cleaned. Okay, yeah, you see, that's the opposite. First they're sorted and cleaned, and then they go through everything else. White tea leaves are produced with only 3 steps. The leaves get dried, steamed, and cleaned, and lastly sorted out. Okay, it's the exact opposite. Similarly, to produce scented tea, it is a simple process of cooling, scenting tea with fruits or flowers, and drying. Yeah, but you forgot that white tea is not used for this type of tea. Okay, so only green, black, or oolong are used, and white tea cannot be used. So that was a step that's kind of important to leave out. So the grammar and everything was fine. You picked a lot of the important information, but obviously the fact that you read it backwards would have presented a problem. It would have definitely scored you down for task achievement, which is a shame because I thought you did nice in general. I thought you did a good job in general. But yeah, like I said, you misread this, so it should have been left to right. Okay, and here too. All right. Okay, so yeah, I mean, now you know that it starts like this and then goes like that. But other than that, like I said, I thought you did a fine job. It was just the order that was wrong. It would affect your score, as I've already said. But in general, it was nicely written. Okay, let's take a look at this now. Moving companies. Okay, let's see what you said. Let's see what you said. In a city, there are many large companies. Because of that, people usually have their workplace in a city rather than in suburban areas. Therefore, cities grew significantly over the past years. To move companies from the cities and regional areas can have a few benefits as well as some disadvantages. All right. I mean, this was fine. Although I feel like this kind of came out of nowhere. I kind of feel like your first two sentences, actually first three sentences, didn't really bring us to this kind of logical ending point with your paragraph. I think you could have done basically a better job of rephrasing and just getting to the point a little sooner. Okay, just something like, in a city there are many large companies. Many believe that in order to, no, how about this? Many believe that companies should consider relocating outside of the city in order to improve the environment and to create new workplaces outside of the city. And then you could have said it has few benefits as well as disadvantages. Okay, so just something like that, getting kind of narrowing down to the main point here a little sooner, I think would have been a good idea. There are some advantages to locating companies in suburban areas rather than cities. In regional areas, there is usually more space to build larger companies and have the opportunity to build further if a company is growing and in need of more spacious capacity. Okay, given more space, okay, it's a lot of space in one sentence. Look, space, spacious, space, okay? So let's find a way to rephrase this. Let's find a way to maybe use a synonym or some other word. In fact, why don't we try it again? Okay. In regional areas, there is usually more space, this I'll leave, to build larger companies and have the opportunity to build further if the company is growing and in need of more room. Given more, given more, let's see, let me think about it. Employers of companies have the opportunity to provide parking lots. Let's see. Actually, why don't we try this? With more room, employers of companies have the opportunity to provide parking lots for their employees as well as a more calm and quiet surrounding. No, not a surrounding, but as well as more calm and quiet surroundings. It's usually in the plural. By avoiding the noise of a city. By moving larger companies to a regional area, pollution levels created by larger buildings in cities can be reduced. Companies are situated in big buildings and therefore create a high amount of pollution due to electricity, disposable waste, and fossil fuels resulting from production in a factory, for example. Okay, so explain this to me. So why would the pollution level be reduced in a regional location? All right, that wasn't really entirely clear to me. So I would like to see that logic explained a little more clearly. Okay? Okay. There are some disadvantages. All right, now here I really feel like you need some sort of a better linker. Okay, you started off here. There are some advantages, and then there are some disadvantages. So you needed a linker to show that you're now kind of switching sides, that you're switching your argument here and your point of view. All right, and then you also need to vary up this language a little bit. Looking at it, there are some advantages, there are some disadvantages. It's very clear, and I'm glad that you have a very clear topic sentence. It's important to do that, but you needed to come up with another way to do this without so much repetition. So why don't we try this, for example? Despite the advantages, moving companies to suburban areas have a number of disadvantages. Has a number of disadvantages. Okay? So that would have been a nice way to do it. All right? Or, however, moving companies to suburban areas is not without disadvantages. Okay, so it was another way you could have done it. But you definitely need some sort of linker here to show that, okay, I've moved from the advantages, now I'm going on to the disadvantages, and also to vary the language up here because it's really rather repetitive. All right, moving on. Depending on where people live, they could have a longer commute to the workplace. There are not as many options for public transport. All right, again, here you need something to show us that these are connected. I'm not a huge fan of these linkers that always start like in the front of the beginning of the sentence, but every now and then you do need them, okay? Because what's happening here is that there's not enough cohesion happening. So I want to read it again, this part right here. Depending on where people live, they could have a longer commute to their workplace. This is because there are not as many options for public transport as it is provided in cities. Therefore, people could be forced to commute by car and spend a significant amount of money on gas and parking, for example. By having a company in a different area, there is a high chance for that region to grow and develop drastically. Is this a negative thing? Restaurants, bars, and small shops would be built around companies in a more remote area could become a smaller, busy city in a short amount of time. As a result of that, the charm of regional areas could be taken away and destroy. This is awkward. And natural areas could be destroyed. Okay, so you are saying it as a negative, but it wasn't really clear. Here, I also still think you needed some sort of a signpost, and by that I mean some sort of an expression or something that shows us, okay, now I'm moving on to my second reason why there is a drawback. Okay, my second drawback, essentially. So, you had one here, okay, and that's fine, and then it could have just been something like, furthermore, seriously. Okay, or additionally, or another disadvantage is. All right, so again, just a signpost showing us that you're not continuing with this line of thinking, with the commute and lack of transport and so forth, but you're in fact moving to another line of thinking where you're now going to talk about regional areas losing their charm. Okay? All right, let's move on. So, to conclude, it brings out many benefits for cities, and that's a little awkward. To conclude, many benefits for cities are created by moving companies to smaller regions. However, it is important to choose the preferred area wisely and respect its nature as well as locals living there. Okay, that's fine. You just have to fix that awkwardness. So, Stephanie, it's nice. There's a lot of good stuff happening in this essay, but, it's not without problems, and we've talked about some of them. I want you to work on some of this coherence and cohesion that I mentioned today. All right, that's one thing that I thought needed to be worked on for sure. Okay, again, I want to make it clear that the front position linkers are not your best bet, okay? Especially, there are a lot of people who use them in like every sentence. You don't want to do that, but you do want to be able to create some sort of like signpost for when you're introducing a new idea, or, when you're introducing a new paragraph, when you're showing contrast in that paragraph. So there are some things that I want you to kind of start using, okay? So go ahead and get started on your next set of essays, and I'll wait for them to see what you write next time, okay? Good luck.